Breaking news tonight. 2 NYPD officers are dead after being ambushed and shot execution style in the head while sitting in their patrol car in Brooklyn. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us. It's a sad night for New York City. NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio holding a press conference about the brutal murders of 2 police officers moments ago. Brian Yennis is in the newsroom with the latest. Brian?
Yeah, exactly. A visibly emotional and shaken NYPD Police Commissioner Bill Bratton and Mayor Bill de Blasio speaking tonight just moments after addressing the grieving families of 2 of New York's finest. Officer Wen-Jan Liu, married 2 months ago, and Officer Rafael Ramos, who just celebrated his 40th birthday, leaving behind a 13-year-old son.
Today, 2 of New York's finest were shot and killed with no warning, no provocation. They were, quite simply, assassinated, targeted for their uniform and for the responsibility they embraced to keep the people of this city safe.
Police say at about 2:47 p.m., the suspect, 28-year-old Ismail Brinsley, walked to the front passenger window of an NYPD patrol car in an intersection in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He took out his silver semi-automatic firearm, shot both officers in the head. The officers ambushed, seemingly had no warning, and probably did not see him. At that moment, NYPD officers chased Brinsley into a subway station where he shot and killed himself on the platform. Police say hours earlier, at 5:45 a.m., Brinsley was in Baltimore, where he shot and seriously wounded his former girlfriend, the victim's mother, alerting police that he had also taken over her Instagram account. On Instagram, Brinsley posted 2 photos, one showing the murder weapon with the post saying, quote, "I'm putting wings on pigs today. They take one of ours, let's take 2 of theirs. Hashtag shoot the police, hashtag RIP Eric Gardner, hashtag RIP Mike Brown." Another post showing Brinsley's camouflage pants with a blood stain on it moments after shooting the 2 NYPD officers. Now, during the day, Brinsley drove to Brooklyn, and at 2:45 p.m., Baltimore police sent a warning flyer to the NYPD, warning that Brinsley was headed their way. But in a tragic irony, that was the same time Brinsley took his gun and cowardly assassinated 2 of New York's finest. Of course, this all happening during high tension after the shooting death of Michael Brown and the death of Eric Gardner, particularly here in New York City. Last Saturday, 2 NYPD police officers were assaulted by 7 protesters at the Brooklyn Bridge. The city's police union chief has gone after Mayor Bill de Blasio for essentially throwing the NYPD under the bus, not supporting them in the wake of Eric Gardner, sending a petition to cops requesting that the mayor not attend the funeral for anyone killed in the line of duty. Mayor Bill de Blasio tonight did not want to address those concerns, calling it just a day of mourning.
We are still learning the details. It's clear that this was an assassination. These officers were shot execution style. Particularly despicable act, which goes at the very heart of our society and our democracy. When a police officer is murdered, it tears at the foundation of our society.
Reaction pouring in. President Barack Obama has obviously been alerted of what's been going on, and I'm sure he has a statement coming out soon. Attorney General Eric Holder has come out with a statement calling it a cowardly attack. Al Sharpton has also come out and said that it is reprehensible and against the pursuit of justice in both cases of Eric Gardner and Michael Brown. And there's also one last statement from a Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. They represent federal law enforcement, that said that had Mayor Bill de Blasio been forceful from the onset when the 2 lieutenants were attacked last week, one has to question as to whether this murderous psycho would have been compelled to target our heroic brother and sister in New York's finest. Jeanine?
Brian, one question. It's my understanding that when Mayor Bill de Blasio arrived at the press conference today or this evening, that NYPD police officers turned their backs to him. Is that correct?
That's right. There's video out there right now, actually on Pix 11, the local station here, that shows at least probably a dozen that we can see in the video turning their backs as Mayor Bill de Blasio and Commissioner Bill Bratton walked through into the press conference. You can visibly see them completely turning their backs. Some had their cell phones forward, but many of them turned their backs against the mayor.
Brian Yanis, thanks so much. And with me now, former New York City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik. Commissioner, your thoughts?
It's, with the exception of September 11th, this takes me back to 1988. We had 2 officers killed on October 18th. This reminds me of the days back in the 60s and 70s when we faced executions of New York City cops. In this circumstance, I personally feel that Mayor de Blasio, Sharpton, and others like them, they actually have blood on their hands. They encourage this behavior. They encourage protests. These so-called peaceful protests that where people were standing out there saying, kill the cops. Well, I hope they're happy because they got what they wanted.
And what you're referring to, of course, is last Saturday's protest on the Brooklyn Bridge, the so-called peaceful protest where the protesters yelled, what do we want, dead cops? When do we want it now?
We want them now.
And then 2 New York City police lieutenants who were assaulted. Mayor de Blasio comes out and says they were allegedly assaulted. They weren't allegedly assaulted. They were assaulted.
They were assaulted.
Attacked.
They were assaulted. They were beaten. Their radios were taken. You know, I'm numb. I am numb, and you have to question whether this man, Mayor de Blasio, can actually lead this city. You have to question that. You have to wonder, how can he lead this city? What
about Bill de Blasio? Is he the police commissioner for Mayor de Blasio, or is he the police commissioner for the NYPD?
He is not the commander-in-chief as I see it. You need leadership in the mayor's office that the men and women of the NYPD are going to respect. And he's a hypocrite. I just watched this press conference. I listened to him now, and I listened to him, I think back 2 weeks ago when he was inciting these protesters, when he was calling the NYPD and other cops around the nation racist.
Who was?
De Blasio.
De Blasio. All right. Well, let's talk about the president as well. De Blasio, and I think the president of the United States need to understand that their actions in failing to defend police and criticizing police, saying African-American young men are having problems with law enforcement. Well, right now, law enforcement, 2 officers executed, are having problems with the young African-American man. I don't know who's talking about this, but I'm going to talk about it. The 2 of them have undoubtedly created racial tensions that worsens, not betters, the situation for law enforcement. I mean, are police safe in this city?
Jeanine, it's not only the city. It's not only the city. Naturally, we're talking about the city tonight. Our nation's police has been called into question by the mayor and other legislators and political figures around this country over the last 2 months over 2 incidents. Millions of arrests a year, and they're talking about 2 incidents. They turned this entire country, their entire police service in this country, into racist. And I agree with the Federal Law Enforcement Association, the officers that said if this was handled differently up front, that probably wouldn't have happened today. Nobody would have the courage to do what they did.
All right. Commissioner Bernie Kerik is going to be staying with us for much of the time this evening. Our continuing coverage of the execution-style shooting of 2 NYPD police officers and new details about the shooter next. Stay with us.